Hello, guys. Good afternoon. Yesterday we have started the Apex programming language, right? So today let's go with the uses of Apex and why we need to use this Apex, where like in which editions this programming is included, and why we need to use Apex, and what Apex will support, and what are the development tools to write the Apex code, which type of development tools we should use, and also let's discuss about the data types that are supported by Apex, and let's go with the introduction to data types. That's all we need to discuss today. So once if they are completed, we'll go with the after completion of data types. If the time permits, we'll go with the declarations and all, and DML statements and queries, like query languages also. Let's go with the naming conventions and declarations first after completion of data types. Okay. So I think the count is very low. So just wait for 2 more minutes. After 2 minutes, let's start the session. Okay, guys, let's start the session. Let me share my screen first. Is my screen visible to you? Guys, are you able to see my screen? Okay. And Yesterday we have discussed about features of Epics, right? We have gone through the introduction to Epics and how Epics will work, and how the codes will be executed in Epics, and also how the request will be sent by the end user, and from where the records will be getting for the end user. We have discussed all the things yesterday, right? So yesterday I have told you that we'll be using a different type of query languages in Salesforce to query the Salesforce records, right? Can anyone tell me what are that query languages? Not SQL, but not SQL. It's SOQL and SOSL. These are supported by Salesforce, and we'll be using these SOQL and SOSL queries to retrieve the records from Salesforce database. Okay, and we have gone through the features of Apex also. We After that features of Apex, let's discuss where we can write the Apex code and in which type of editions this Apex code is included. Okay, so we have these four types of editions of our skills. It is a performance edition, unlimited, developer edition, and enterprise edition. See, developer edition is a free demo org for us, like free developer org that which we have created. That is a free org, and we call that as developer edition. We need not to pay anything to what another SOSL. SOSL. So for accessing the developer edition or we do not need any payments and all this. For any other things like enterprise or unlimited edition or performance edition, these will be available editions. So we need to buy these editions if you want to customize more than the features provided with us developer edition. Okay, generally the people who are like who are working with the business processes. The companies will not use developer edition for the development. If they'll be using the different types of editions based on their scenarios. What editions they'll be assassinating what editions they need for fulfilling that requirement, and they will be using that editions. Okay, so these are the paid editions. Only the developer edition is a free thing. Okay. So it is a database.com. As I already told you, there is a connection with Apex to the Salesforce database, right? So it will be included in the database also. So use Apex when you want to, like when you need to use Apex. At what time you should go with the Apex classes other than Salesforce automation tools like Flow Builder. Okay. So when and where you have to move to this Apex code uh, without using flows. Okay? Create web and email services. When you want to create web services or email services, see, if you go and think of web services. So what is web services? The external systems will be calling Salesforce to access some information, right? To access some records which are there in the Salesforce. So this is known as web services. First, what we have to do to enable these web services for even for calling the like external systems will be able to call our Salesforce records whenever the Apex class is invocable with REST, right? REST resource. Whenever we are writing an Apex code with @REST resource, then it will be making as a REST resource for web services. So that class will be called like we are enabling that class to enable the external systems to call our Salesforce for retrieving some information. Okay, without that, we will not be able to enable the web services from other external systems. So we need Apex for those kind of stuff, right? And also email services. When you want to send a single email message, for that case, you will go to the Apex code instead of using flows. Okay. So in such scenarios, you will go with the Apex programming. And that the next one is perform complex validation over more than one objects. If you want to validate the data, if you want to validate the object's data, you can even use validation rules or flows to validate your data. You can use before like past field updates, right? So before even though you can use flows and validation rules, if there are any complex validations to do, so it is not in only one object. You have to do more than one object's validation. Then what you have to do? It will be more complex when you go to the flows and validation rules here. For this scenario, if you go to the flows and validation rules, it will be more complex. Okay. So at that time, we'll be moving to the Apex. Okay. We'll be moving with the Apex methods to validate the complex data. Okay. So the next one is create complex business logics. Those cannot be implemented by workflows. See, whatever the business logics are there for us, like whatever the logics your organization is providing. So whatever the requirements you got, there is a logic which we cannot implement that effectively using flows. Okay, so we cannot use flows for effective implementation of that requirement. If you think in that way, if you think that cannot implement effectively, you will go with the Apex programming at that time. Okay, so most of the business logics, how it will be there is, if you want to make changes, if you want to make any changes after the whole scenario is done, you need to do because they are paying money to you. So whatever the requirement they have given to you, you need to complete that. After completing, if they want any changes to be happening, like if they want any changes to be made, you have to make that also. So make sure you have to you have to store the versions of your code or versions of your flow, right? In the flow we have versions, correct? Whenever we will be saving after activating the flow, if we save, it will be saved as a new version, right? We have versions using flows. And also, if you are writing an Apex programming code, you must store the code somewhere. Okay, whenever you are whenever you are making changes, you're not supposed to make changes simply on your code. You have to store that code first. Whenever you want to, like whenever, if there is let's take an example. Your client have a requirement and it is given to you. You done that, and client client is asking that I don't want this type of inputs taking from the user. I want some other type of inputs. So if he gave requirement like that, it is for the second time, and you have not stored your code. You just simply edited that code which you have written earlier. What happens at that time? If you go and show that to client, if he is not satisfying with that, and he thought that, he'll think that the previous one is better than the new one. Now what he'll do? he'll say, okay, I don't need this version. I need only the previous version. Then at that moment of time, you guys, if you guys do not store your code, what happens then? You have to made changes again, right? So for that, you need to store the previous code. Okay. So when it is not possible with flows like storing and performing a business logic, a very critical business logic, uh, it is not possible if not possible to implement using workflows. You think in that way, you will be implementing with the Apex programming language those requirements. Okay. Create custom logic that occurs over the entire transaction. See, if you want to make an Apex classes, you'll be able to write your custom code, right? So for the entire Apex transaction, it will be the logic. It is only the logic for entire transaction. You have to write custom logics in that way. Okay. So attach custom logic to another operation, such save a record. So see, if you written any logic in your Apex code, you have to attach that logic. Like there should be a dependent tasks here. When that logic should be executed. So I have written a logic to create a contact. When my logic should be executed is whenever the account is created, I want to execute the logic that I have written in the Apex code, right? So like that, if you want any such operations to be performed by on our operations, you have to attach that custom logic to another operations which you need. Okay, such as saving a record so that it occurs whenever the operation is executed. So whenever the save the record operation is executed, your custom code logic will be executed at that time, and regardless it originates in UI, VF, or from SOAP API. See, we are not sure that that will be executing over UI, so it will be originating in UI or not. We can't say that because depending on the situation and also depending on the requirement, it will be performing on UI, Salesforce pages, or from SOAP API. We can't decide that. So according to the business scenarios, we'll be doing the such kind of things. Okay. So whenever you want these kind of operations to be performed, you will be going with the Apex classes other than using declarative approaches like flows. Okay. So what Apex supports? In Apex programming language, what we can create and what we can use, what it will support. See, it will support classes. We can create classes in Apex, right? We can create our own classes in Apex. In that classes, we can create methods to perform logic. Uh, if you guys are aware of Java programming language, there you will be creating the classes, right? There you will be creating the classes, and in that you will be creating the method. Logic will be performed inside that method. So it is also the same, guys. Same like Java programming language. You will be creating classes like Java, and inside that classes you will be creating methods. So methods, and in that methods you guys should perform your logic. Whatever your logic is there, you need to perform your logic inside that methods. Okay. So And as like we write classes, we create classes and methods in Java. We'll be creating the classes and methods and performing our logic inside that methods in Apex also. Okay. So it will be supporting the interfaces. If you want to implement the methods, like if you want to use the already built-in methods in your Salesforce, like in your Apex programming language. So if you guys, can anyone tell that uh, if you want to if you don't want to execute any methods, like if you don't want to create any methods, and if you want to use the existing methods, what you need to implement them, what your class need to be implemented. The class needs to implement the interface if you want to use existing methods without creating your own methods. If you want to use the existing methods in Apex or Java, you'll be using your class with implementing the interface. Okay, your class name implements interface name. Okay, in this way you'll be implementing the interfaces to use the existing methods over Apex. Okay. Good afternoon, Premchan. And after there are collections. It will support collections, guys. When we'll be using these kind of collections means, if you are storing, like if you are retrieving the information of Salesforce records, right? You are querying the Salesforce records from Salesforce database, and you need to store them somewhere, right? Where you can store in a list or map or set, you can store your records. So for that purpose, we'll be using the collections in Apex language. Okay. Not only the Salesforce records, you can store any kind of information over there. Okay. So it will support objects, array notations, expressions, variables, constants. In Apex language, we'll be using all these kind of stuff. Okay, we'll be creating constants, variables, and also we are using expressions over there. Array notations. We'll be using arrays, and the Apex supports arrays and also objects. Whatever the objects are there in our Salesforce, we'll be using those objects here in Apex. Okay. So we'll be using S object as data type, guys. Okay. So conditional statements. It also supports conditional statements like if else. Okay. Control statements like for loop, while loop. Here we can use if else statements or if statements. Like that, these conditional statements will be using whenever you want to check for the particular condition. Okay, so control statements will be using for looping the records which you are getting from the Salesforce database. Okay, you can use for loop or while loop, not whole loop, it's while loop. Okay, for loop or while loop. Cloud as it's stored. So it will support the cloud, guys, because all the existing information in Salesforce Apex or Salesforce, it will be stored in the cloud, right? So that the Apex will be supporting the cloud, because whenever Apex wants the information in Salesforce, so whenever it wants to retrieve the records from Salesforce, it need to be asking, like it needs to query the Salesforce records, right? So for querying, it should support the cloud, because all the information will be stored in the cloud in Salesforce, right? So for that, it will be supporting the cloud and compiled and executed in cloud. Not only the data is storing in the cloud, guys. It will be compiled and also executed inside the code. Okay, it will be compiled first, executed in the cloud itself, and also stored in the cloud itself. Okay, so it will support triggers to call methods. So you can use triggers for calling methods, guys, because writing whole code in a single trigger is not a best practice. Because if you want to perform some complex logics, your lines of code might be increased, and you people may get confused if you write whole logic in triggers. So the best practice to follow is use handler classes. Okay, use Apex classes to perform your logic, and in triggers you call that methods. Okay, that is the best method to follow in triggers. Okay, so Apex supports triggers to call methods. Database statements to query search data. So database statements in the sense DML statements, data manipulation language. DML in the sense data manipulation language. So those statements will be there: insert, update, delete, upsert, so undelete. These kind of DML statements will be there, and Apex also supports those DML statements to query search data. So if you want to query any of the records in Salesforce from search text, if you want to query the data from by knowing only the single text that is included in the Salesforce records somewhere. You don't know even where it is it is existed. You don't know even it is in the contact account, or you don't know the object name also, and also you don't know the field name which it is existed. Right? At that time, what you only know is you know that the text. Let's take an example like John. You only know that John is existed in Salesforce records, but you don't know in what object he has existed, in which field he is there, that name is there. You don't know this kind of stuff. You only know is the name of the person. Okay, so at that time you can use SOSL query for querying the data. Okay, SOSL query for querying the data. So SOQL and SOSL are used in such cases. So we'll be discussing that in a coming sessions, guys. After this Apex introduction, okay. So DML statements. After querying the data, if you want to update that data, the data which we have queried, you can do using DML statements, or else you can insert the data into database. If you want to delete particular data, you can query that data and delete from Salesforce. Okay, transactions and rollbacks. So we will be using this. If What is transaction? If we perform any execution using Apex class, we are running the Apex class that is known as transaction. And if you want to about that, you can roll back your transactions also. Okay. So the global access modifier, which is permissive than public and allow across namespaces and applications. So the Apex also supports the global access modifier. Access modifier which is global. Generally, what access modifiers we will use: public, private, and protected, right? So beyond these three kinds of public access specifiers, Apex supports global access modifier. Global. Global in the sense it is more permissive than public, and if the class name with if the class name is global, it will be accessible by namespaces irrespective of that namespace, that class namespace. Every namespace can access that global class, and also among the applications, every application can access that global class. Okay, so versioning of custom code, we can we can even use the versions, like we can store Apex code as versions. Okay, that is known as versioning. And we have development tools like developer console and visual code. For writing code in a Visual Studio, like Visual Studio Code. Whenever we want to write code in that, you should install the 1 second, guys. So sorry, guys. And there are development tools like Developer Console and Visual Studio Code. So if you want to use Visual Studio Code, you need to install the Salesforce extension in the Visual Studio Code extensions. Okay, and also you need to connect your Salesforce org to Visual Studio Code. Okay, you need to connect your Salesforce org to VS Code, and also you need to install the Salesforce extension pack in extensions. Okay, pretty. So these are the development tools we'll be using for the development, guys. So if you guys want, uh, like if you don't need the VS Code or developer console for writing your codes, Apex codes, you can use Lightning Studio extension, guys, Google extension. You can use that. First, let me open my Salesforce org. So see, if you want to use Lightning Studio, see, your Lightning Studio will be like this. So I think you people are not able to see that. It is opening in us another window. Let me share that screen, guys. See, Lightning Studio will be in this form. Lightning Studio the UI of Lightning Studio will be like this. If you want to create Apex classes, you can create from here. See, new Apex class. It will be more handy than developer console. give your Apex class name and click on deploy. You need not to deploy using a deploy method also. It will be low. So whenever we are using developer console, what happens is it will be slow down sometimes, guys. Okay. Whenever you are saving the Salesforce, saving the Apex classes, it will not save that much early. So it will take more time for saving, and the time will be wasted using developer console. If you want to use Lightning Studio extension, you can add that extensions to your Chrome. Okay, that will be available in Google. Just search for Lightning Studio extension and add that extension to your Chrome. Okay, so you can use this extension. Mainly, it will be helpful for writing LWC components. Okay, so like this, you will be creating the. It will be creating three three files: HTML, JSON, meta XML files while creating LWC component. And for Apex classes will be created. See, you will be having this kind of UI. It is better than developer console, I guess. So if you want, you guys install this. So you guys add this to your Chrome. Okay, add this extension to your Chrome. So let me open my PPT again. That's it about development tools. If you want, you can use Lightning Studio extension other than this. Okay, but using developer console, using VS Code is a best practice other than using developer console, guys. Okay, it is a best practice to use Visual Studio Code instead of developer console. Okay, or else you can use Lightning Studio. It is not a big issue. So the data types which is supported by Apex. What type of Apex? What type of data types that Apex should supports? Apex will supports. Meaning, what kind of data types we can use in our Apex programming language. Okay, so we can use primitive data types. All the primitive data types: integer, long, date, ID. ID in the sense, it is only the data type for our Salesforce guys, Salesforce Apex programming. Because what do you think ID is here? Any guesses? What is the ID data type here? For what we will be using that ID data type? What will store that? What will store in that ID data type? Have any idea, guys? Why it is used? What we can store in that ID data type? Guys, are you there? Okay, I think you guys are not there. So we'll be using all Apex will be supporting all the primitive data types: integer, long, double, string, date, boolean, and all. And also there are more, guys. So ID is ID data type in the sense it will be used for storing the Salesforce record IDs. Okay, it will be used to store the Salesforce record IDs. Yes, yes. That is correct, Premchan. But what I am asking is why the ID is used. What type of data can you store in that ID data type? Do you have any idea? Like you guys can guess that, okay? As the name suggests, we are storing ID. The data type is ID. What type of data can we store in that ID data type? The Salesforce generated unique ID. The 18 digits ID we can store in that ID data type. Okay. And an S object, guys. It is another kind of data type, S object, either as a generic S object or as a specific object. We can use that as a generic object. Generic object in the sense we'll be providing data type as S object only. Or else we can also use a specific S object. So if you are storing, like if you are playing with an account object, you can use data type as account. Okay, or else we can use as S object. So many developers will use account as a data type for account object, contact for contact object. So whenever they are playing with a different type of objects, like see, as I explained earlier, SOSL is used to retrieve information from more than one records, right? We can get information from more than one records. So at that time, we'll be using S object as data type, okay? Because we don't know, we can't give only one object name as data type for retrieving the different kinds of objects data information, correct? So we are getting two or more kinds of data, and you are giving only the account as object name, account as data type, that will be getting an error, right? So for that specific kind of situations, we'll be using the S object as data type. That we call as generic S object. Okay, and also it will supports the collections, list, set, and map. Is I'll show whenever we are going with the Apex practical scenarios. Okay, I'll show guys. Whenever we are going with the practical scenarios, I'll be showing you how to use the Lightning Studio. So now I have sent the answer, another answer, ma'am. Is that correct? Premchand, you did not send me any answer. This was the answer I have. Acha, you have sent it. Okay, okay. I got that. Okay. Data types are used to classify the kind of value a variable can hold. Yes, enabling the computer to understand how to interpret and process the data. Yes, Premchand, that is correct. But what I have asked is, you understood, right, why ID is used? What type of data can be stored in ID data type? Okay, what you said is correct. And the ID is a special kind of data type here. I think you people have not found in Java or some other programming languages, right? So in this, like in Apex, we'll be using ID as a data type that is used to store the Salesforce generated ID. So Salesforce will generate ID, right? Salesforce will be generating us ID for every record. See, when we go to sales application, sales application. See, whenever we go to object and open any object record, what happens is, see, you will be getting the 18 digit ID over here. So that is the record ID. That is the Elizabeth account record ID, right? See, Elizabeth account record ID. This is, so these record IDs are unique in Salesforce days. Randomly generated, or do we need to define the ID ourselves? You answered it just now. That's okay, Pranit. That's okay. So see, what is randomly generated ID? So Salesforce will be generating the record ID for every record, right? And also it is very unique. And there is a sequence, guys. See, if you can see here, 001. You can see 001 here. So this is account. If you go to contacts and open any of the contact, you can see 002 here. Okay, 003 here. Okay, this is the code that we can say this ID belongs to the contact object. Okay, this ID belongs to the contact object. If it is 001, we can say it is the account object, account record. So like that, Salesforce will be generating IDs for different records. Okay, so if you want to play with that IDs in Apex, if you want to use that IDs in Apex, you will be using the data type as ID. Okay, you will be using data type as ID. If you want to store that Salesforce generated IDs, if you want to store Salesforce generated unique IDs, so we call that as record IDs. If you want to store that record IDs, you'll be using the data type called ID. Okay. So we'll be using only the record IDs over there. We are not using any other IDs there. Okay. Only the 18 digit record ID. We are only using 18 digits record ID. Okay. Understand, Pranit? Okay. So see, S object. I have already said about S object. Collection, guys. So any of you aware of the collections in Salesforce? Not only in Salesforce, guys. Generally, in a programming language, you people have any idea about collections, list, set, and map? Do you have any idea? Do you have any idea, guys? Array, structure, queue, stack, etc. So here we are using only list, set, map. Okay, Salesforce supports Apex supports only three of the collections. Okay, so it will also supports array collection, and we'll be using like a list, right? Array and list are same, so it will support only list, set, and map. Okay, not all these collections. It will support only list, set, and map. If you guys know any difference between list and set, please tell me, guys. You guys are aware of the difference between list and set. List also stores the data, set also stores the data. Similar kind of data we can store using list and set. But what is the main difference between list and set? Does anybody know? Okay, let me tell you guys. It is represented as square braces and set is flower braces. Not visualization, guys. Not representing Kaushik. A main difference in storing the data. Okay, in store the main difference in storing the data. There is a one main difference in storing. Can you say that? Not representing square braces and flower braces. This is not an exact difference what I'm asking. Okay. So okay guys, that's fine. I'll explain you. So it will be supporting collections and also a type list of values, also known as enums. Enum is a special kind of data type, guys. Okay. And also user defined apex classes. We can use apex classes as data type also. It stores, list stores in ascending and set stores randomly. Okay. Set stores randomly. And also it is ordered collection and set is unordered collections. Not all these, guys. There is a one major difference which illustrates set list and set. Okay. So don't worry, guys. I'll explain you. So we can use the user defined data types, user defined apex classes as data types here. Okay. It also supports Apex also supports the user defined data types, user defined classes as data types. Okay. Now let's go to introduction to data types. What data types we are having, and what data types we are using in Apex and all. Okay. In Apex, all variables and expressions have a data type. So for every variable or for every expression, we'll be declaring a data type, right? We'll be using a data type. It may be subject, primitive, or enum data types. Okay, so we have primitive data types in our Apex programming language. See, guys, what primitive data types are there. Okay, there are different primitive data types called integer, string, id, decimal, boolean, date, time, object, and time. Okay, so these are all called primitive data types in Apex. So Apex will support these kind of data types. Okay, so when we go to the declaration of data types, how we can declare the data types? What is the declaration? What is the declaration of data types? See, declaration in the sense how we are writing the code, how we are storing the value to to that particular type of data type variable. Okay, that is known as declaration. See, here you can see example. You can see the declaration first. Data type variable name equals to the value you are providing for that variable name. Okay, for example, integer, it is a data type, and x, it is a variable name, and phi is a value you are providing for that x. Okay, variable name. We are providing for that variable name x. So see, guys, we all know that phi is an integer. Okay, what happens now? What happens if I keep 5.5 here? What happens if I keep 5.5 here? What's the difference? What makes it different? What happens if I make that 5.5? So if you write that integer x equals to 5.5, there are incompatible data types. You will get the exception incompatible types, right? For integer data type, integer variable, you are giving 5.5 means it is a decimal value. You are giving decimal value for the integer data type, integer variable, right? For that such scenarios, because of that you will be getting the incompatible types exception. Okay, so this is how we'll be declaring the data types, guys. I think you people are aware of that part, declaring data types and all. And there are classes in Salesforce Apex. So the different types of classes, the different types of methods we can write in that classes, and also there are static methods and non-static methods also. We can see that. So see, what are classes in Salesforce? What are classes in Apex? Yesterday we have already discussed about what is classes. So a class is a blueprint of object, right? A class is a blueprint from which objects are created. It is a blueprint of object. But what is called, what object is called, what is object? It is an instance of class. We'll be creating instances for that class that we call as object. Okay. We have access modifiers, public, private, and global. Okay. These kind of access modifiers are present in Apex language. So if you use public, your Apex class will be shared with the namespace. Shared along with shared across the namespace. Okay. If it is private, you can't people cannot see your Apex class. If it is private, only you can see that class. Okay. So if it is global, irrespective of the namespace they have, every people can see that Apex class. Okay. So these are about namespaces. Sorry, these are about access modifiers. And see, there are virtual, abstract, with sharing and without sharing keywords. Okay. So if you enforce, we'll be talking about these kind of keywords in the upcoming sessions, guys. Because if I say that with sharing and without sharing now, uh, we can say this, guys. We can go with this. See, if you use with sharing keyword, a public with sharing, class name. So this is the syntax. Okay. Public with sharing, class keyword. After class keyword, you will be writing the class name. Okay. So that is the syntax. And if you use with sharing, guys, what happens is, if you are writing any sharing rules for that object, if you are enforced with any sharing rules, that will be applied. Okay. That will be applied. If you use without sharing, that will not be applied. Okay. Irrespective of the sharing rules that you have written, this Apex code will be run. Okay. So by default, if you have not provided any such keyword with sharing or without sharing, by default it will take it as without sharing. Okay. So this is the syntax. After keyword, class name, implement, if there is any need to implement any interface, if you want if you want to implement any interface, if you want to use the methods that are included in any of the interfaces that Apex provides, you can implement, like you can write the syntax like class name, after implements keyword, after the interface name. Okay. If there are two or more interfaces, you can separate that with comma. Okay. And extends, if you want to extend any classes, so if using interface, like using inheritance, if you want to use inheritance, you will be extending the parent classes, right? Child classes will be extending the parent classes. So if at that time, if you want to extend like that, you can extend with class name. Okay. Extends is another keyword. And here the class stats, the curly brace stats, and the body of the class will be written in the enclosing of these braces. So here the body of the class will be written and close the brace. So this is all how we create the class, guys. Okay. This is all how we create the class. If you want to perform any logic over here, you can use methods in Salesforce Apex classes. Okay. Inside that class you can write a method. Okay. You can implement a method. Either it may be static method or non-static method. Inside that method, you can perform your logic. Okay. So now, what is the static method and what is non-static method. Okay. Let's now discuss what are static methods and what are non-static methods. Static methods in the sense, a static method is a method that belongs to the class. Okay, that belongs to the class rather an instance of the class. So if it is static, if it is a static class, a static method, sorry, uh, how we'll be declaring these static methods? Public static void main. Void in Java, we'll say public static void main, right? So how we'll be declaring here is public static void method name. Okay, not main. Here we'll be using public static void method name. We call that as static methods. Public void method name. That is non-static methods. Okay. So if you want to call, like if you want to execute that static methods, you can execute directly by accessing class name dot method name. Okay, you can execute that method directly by class name dot method name. But if you want to execute the non-static method, you need to create an instance of that class. Instance of that class, we call it as what we call instance of the class object. Okay, we call it as object. We have to create that instance of class first, and from that instance variable we can run the non-static method. Okay, from that instance variable we can run the non-static method. So this is the difference about static method and non-static method. Okay. So need of naming conventions. Guys, do you know what are naming conventions? Why these naming conventions are used? Can anyone tell? Yes, to read things easier. Correct. Any more? So why these naming conventions are used is, if you want to if you're writing a code, a set of rules for naming items. Yes. Okay. Let's go for that, guys. So we'll be spending more like, let's think we people wrote a code, but now that code should be handled by some other people. Okay, now some other people are handling that code, so he must understand that code for for editing or any other purposes. First he have to understand the code, and after understanding the code he should perform his own logic, right? For understanding the code, that code should be clean and neat. Okay, then and there the people will be understanding easily. Correct? For understanding purpose, to understand easily, we'll be following some naming conventions. Naming conventions in the sense, we are following some set of rules to write names. Okay, for better understanding and to increase the readability of code. Okay, so for that we'll be using the naming conventions. So see, we spend more time reading our code than writing it. See, we'll be writing the code easily, guys. If you know the logic, we'll be writing the code easily. But whenever we go through after 3 months or few months, if we go through that code, we'll not understand because we'll be forgetting that scenario, and we will not be understanding that code if we do not follow the naming conventions, right? So doesn't doesn't it make sense that our code is clean, precise, and easy to read? So if you're spending more time to read that code, it is not clean, precise, and easy to read, correct? If it is clean, precise, we can read that easily. We don't spend much time for reading that code, right? So it is not a well formed code. Okay. So a well formatted code increases readability, understanding, and ultimately maintainability of the code. Okay. If it is a formatted, like if it is a well formatted, it will be increasing our readability, understanding of the code, and also maintainability of code. Let me show you a code, guys. Let me show you a code. Wait, let me open the Lightning Studio, or else. Okay, okay. I'll open Lightning Studio only. It will be better. So see, guys, we'll be having n number of classes, and we'll be writing the very big code, right? Very like we'll be writing n number of lines in our code. Let me open any code, guys, so that you people can understand. Mm, mm. So see, this code is having 500 lines of code, I guess. See, 516 lines of code. If you see this code, if it is like if it is not like formatted, if it is not formatted like this, you people will not understand the code, and it will be looking like a clumsy. Now see, let me unformat this. If you write your code like this, if you write your code like this, guys, can you understand? Can you understand by seeing this code? What we'll think? Generally, what people will think after seeing such kind of code? See, what is this code, and what they have written here? I'm not understanding. We'll get a lazy kind of things, right? We'll be very lazy to read that code also, because it is very like how this code is looking like. See, we'll be getting a irritation, guys. We'll be getting irritation. There is no formatting. There is no formatted code. If you click on this, see how this line is going. It is not formatted, and the line, one line starts from here, and other from here, other from here. What is this kind of these kind of conventions and all? So if you are not formatted well, and the names are very good, guys, naming conventions are very good. See, new list, the new accounts list is coming over here. We are knowing that. Okay, naming conventions are perfectly fine, but your code is not formatted well. At that moment of time also, you'll get irritation, right? For reading code, if you sit for reading this type of code, you'll be getting an irritation, and you don't read that. You can't read that code, right? And you never understand that code, and you'll never meet the deadlines. Okay, in such scenarios, guys, in such kind of scenarios, you will be getting these you this naming conventions and formatting the codes are helpful. Okay, more helpful. For that case, we'll be using the naming conventions. Now you have seen this code now. Let's format this again, guys. Let's format this again. See how neat it is. Okay. It is a readable code. Now we can read happily. Yes, right? So these kind of things will be happen. So doesn't follow naming conventions and all. See here I have written public static integer least count care code. Okay, care code in the sense care coordinator. We are like we know that after reading this variable name, we are getting some idea. They're they're using this variable. They are using this variable for counting the least care coordinators. Okay, what for storing the least count of care coordinators. We are knowing that if you just simply keep L, if you just simply keep L, what we have to understand about that? What is that L? What we should understand? We don't know, right? We never know what we have to understand about that L. Okay, so naming conventions should be proper, guys. If you don't if you don't maintain your naming conventions properly, if your code doesn't have any readability, okay, first of all, the people will not show interest to read your code and take up your challenge as their challenge, right? And also, if you need any help in development, if your code is not good, no people are going to help you. Okay, those people will not understand first what you are writing. Correct? If the people understand what you are writing, then they can help you, right? Without understanding your code, no one will help you. So for better understanding, we'll be using the naming conventions. Understand? Understand, guys? Guys, understand why these naming conventions are used. Okay, good. Okay, guys. Now the declaration before starting with Salesforce naming conventions, let's talk about what is Pascal case, camel case, and kebab case. So see, guys. Uh, Wait for a minute. See about what is Pascal case, camel case, and kebab case. Okay. So we'll be using these kind of cases. So these kind of cases for declaring the data types. Okay. Declaring the data types or declaring the methods. We'll be using these kind of cases. Now let's see what are those. Okay. How they are declaring and how they are used. Okay. Declaration of data types, guys. First, before going to that, let's talk about camel case first. Each word in the middle of the respective phrase begins with a capital letter. After seeing this example, you people have understood already what is the camel case. Okay, understood what is the camel case? So see, for the first word, for the first word, the first letter will be small and the first letter of next respective phrases will be capital. Okay, let's take first. So let's take smart bridge solutions as example. Now the solution should be S should be capital in solutions. Okay. So this is the camel case, guys. In this way, we'll be using the camel case. Okay. So after Pascal case, what is Pascal case? It is same like camel case where first letter always capitalized. So see, in the camel case, what we have done, what we done in the camel case, only the first letter, the first word, first letter is small. The first letter of the first word is small, and the next phrases will be starting with the capital letter, right? But in the Pascal case, every word's first letter starts with the capital, and the remaining will be small. See, smart bridge. S is capital and B is capital, right? So this is Pascal case, and we'll be using this Pascal case for declaring classes, and we'll be using this camel case for declaring variables. Okay. For variable declaration, we'll be using the camel case. For class declarations, we'll be using Pascal case. And what is kebab case? So every letter in this kebab case is small. How we'll be writing is, for every words, for every respective phrases, those phrases should be transferred into lower cases first. All the phrases should be in the lower case and separating with the hyphen. Okay, the phrases should be separated with hyphen, that we call as kebab case. Okay, for example, see smart bridge, smart hyphen bridge. Okay, these are mainly used in LWC components, guys. We don't need that for now. Okay, we don't need that for now. So in this way, we'll be using the kebab case, guys. Okay. So the next one is snake case. Each word should be in the capital with underscore in the middle of each phrase. Okay. Every phrase should be separated with underscore here. Okay. Will be separated. Every phrase should be separated with underscore, and each letter should be in a uppercase. Okay, each letter should be uppercase. You can see examples over here. Okay, so these are about some of the cases, guys. Okay, and now let's go to different naming conventions here. So see how we should write class name. I already said, I already told you when I'm explaining that Pascal case. So which case we are using here for representing a class name? So see guys, see this class name, Smart Bridge, and tell me which case we are using here. I have already told that is Pascal case, leave about that. And coming to the variable name, so let's go here, guys. Class name should be unique, beginning with an uppercase letter. It should not contain underscores or spaces except from the prefix or suffix. Class name should be nouns in mixed cases with first letter of each interval word capitalized. So see what it is saying, class name must be unique. If you are using one class name now, you should not use that same class name for the next class, right? The Apex will throw you an error. Okay, like this class name is already existing. Okay, so beginning with an uppercase letter, so it should begin with a uppercase letter. It should not contain underscores. So in between the class name of in between the class name, you should not write underscores. Okay, or you should not give any spaces between the words. Okay, except from prefix or suffix. So you can give underscore or space before the class name and after the class name. Prefix and suffix. You know about this, right? So you can give spaces or underscores like that. Class name Class names should be nouns in mixed cases. So class names must be like a nouns case. Okay. So which letter with first letter of each interval word capitalized, as is it is like Pascal case. Each interval word should be capitalized. The first letter of each interval word should be capitalized. So the Pascal case is using for class name. Okay. Now let's go to variable name. So observe this account list, guys. What type of case we are using here? Guys, respond. What type of case we are using here? Guys, are you there? Camel case. Yes. So we are using camel case here. Oh, it is already there. Okay. So we are using camel case for variable names. Okay. And also we will be using camel case for method names also. Okay. So for constants only, we'll be using snake case. If you remember, all the letters should be capitalized and the words should be separated with the underscores. That is snake case. We'll be using that snake case for constants. Okay. So if you see in my code, it's okay. There are no constants in my code. That's fine. Okay, if there are any constants, you can use snake case. Okay. And variables. Let's talk about variable names. Variable should be in a mixed case with the first letter lowercase. So it should be the first letter should be always lowercase. Okay, with the first letter of each interval word capitalized. From the next words, the first letter should be capitalized. Right? Whole words should be used and use of acronyms and abbreviations. So you should not use acronyms and abbreviations for variable names, guys. So it is for method names, right? Sorry, guys. So see, it should be like a camel case. Variable names should be short and sweet and meaningful, right? It should be short, guys, not very lengthy, and it should not be like only one letter. It should be short, sweet, and also a meaningful word. Okay. But you should not use a single letter as variable name, just like X or Y. What is X and what is Y? Okay, you should not use like that. And it should be somewhat meaningful, and it should be camel case like account list. So you should use camel case for declaring the variable names. Okay, and let's go for method names. Method names also using camel case only. So see, method should be verbs in mixed case. Methods should be verbs, guys. Okay. And in the mixed case, with the first letter lowercase, it is in a mixed case format. Not all in a uppercase, not all in a lowercase. Okay. It should be in a mixed case. Like some letters are capitalized and some letters are not capitalized. It is in a lowercase. Okay. So the first letter should be lowercase and each interval word capitalized. Okay. So whole words should be used and use of acronyms and abbreviations should be limited. So we should not use acronyms and abbreviations while we are writing the method names, guys. It is not a best practice to write abbreviations over there. Okay, and name should be camel case. Okay, we should use camel case over here for writing method names also. And the constants, your people are already aware of that constants. Understood, guys? Understood the naming conventions and why we are using naming conventions and all. Understood? Okay. Okay, then if you have any doubts, please let me know, guys. If you don't have doubts, I'll be explaining the collections framework. Okay. Do you have any doubts here? Guys, do you have any doubts? All the people have understood this? Okay. Okay, Tawhid. So as you people are not having any doubts, let's go to the collection framework. Okay, collections. What are collections? So in this we can store different kinds of data. Okay, there are different kinds of classes in collection framework. We have list class, set class, and map class. Okay, list, set, map are three different collections. Okay, so what is list first? What is list? It is a ordered collection of elements that you already have told before. You people have told me that is an ordered collection. List is an ordered collection of elements that are distinguished by their indices. Okay, as it is ordered collection, it will be having a serial numbers to define their indices, right? It is same like array. Okay, it is same like array. List elements can be of any data type, so it can store any kind of data types. Either it may be primitive data types or collections, any other collection. You can also store other collections as objects, user defined types, and also built-in Apex types. Okay, these all kind of data types list can be stored. Okay, list can store different kinds of data types data. Okay, and list class. We'll be having a list class, guys. We'll be having a list class in Apex. So we will use constructor for creating an object and methods to perform operations on elements. Okay, in list perform operations on list elements. Okay, we'll be creating methods in that class for performing on operations on list elements. Okay, so what is list? So what is the difference between list and set? I have asked you earlier. Okay, now if you can observe here, a list is an ordered collection of elements and that are distinguished by their indices. So see here, it can have the duplicate values. Okay, it can have the duplicate values like array. Correct? It will store the duplicate values. If I give Monica to my list, so if I give value as Monica to my list, and also if I give another time the same Monica value, it will store. Okay, but what happens in set is, if you store Monica once, if you are still giving that for the set, if you are still storing the Monica name in the set after it exists, what it will say, what it will do is, it will not store that data. Okay, it will remove that for already existing Monica and it will store this Monica. Okay, okay. So major difference between set and list is list allows duplicate values and set does not allows duplicate values. Okay, this is the major difference, guys. This is the major difference between list and set. Okay, list elements can be of any type. Okay, if this we have already covered. How to create list. How to create list. We already have list class in our Apex, guys. We just need to create an instance of that class. That's it. Okay, it is a pre-built class with methods. Okay, if you want to use methods, you can directly use that list methods that will be provided in the Apex developer guide. So guys, if you want to know more about list class, okay, if you want to know more about list class, if you want to give a short break. Okay, Kaushik. Okay. Just take break for 5 minutes, guys. So if you want to know more about list class, you can go through this Apex developer guide. Okay, here there are methods included in that list class and all. Okay. So just take a 5 minutes break, guys. Okay. Okay, guys, can we start? Guys, are you there? Okay, so can we start now? Okay, guys, just only 15 minutes. So I understand all the theoretical concept is covering today. So you people are getting somewhat bored. Understand? So let's go for the set now. You understood what is list and how to create list, right? So let's go to the set. So creating list and creating set, I'll be explaining you guys. Okay, I'll be explaining you practically. So before that, let's go to set. So a set is an unordered collection of elements that do not contain any duplicates. So see, it will not contain any duplicate values. It doesn't store the duplicate values. What it happens is, if the name that you are sending to the set is already exist, if it is already existed, it will it will remove the existing name from the set, and it will be adding to the new name will be added. Okay, but the duplicate will not be there. Okay, it creates the new instance of set class, that we already seen at for the list class also same. Collection of unique elements with no duplicate values. Set. So when we can use this set class set is, if you want to store if you want to store the record IDs at one place, all the record IDs at one place, at the time you can use this set. Okay, that is already a unique values. Those record IDs are already unique, and also there will not be any unique value, any duplicate values, guys. We cannot find a duplicate value if for that record IDs. Okay, so you can use that. You can use that example. Now it is for a set, guys. It's for a set. If you want to know more about set, and if you want to go through the methods that are included in a set class, you can go for this link. Okay, this is for set. This is for set, guys. So now let's move to the map. Map. A map is a collection of key value pairs. I guess you people have aware of this map, how map will be stored, how the data will be stored in the map in a key value pairs, right? I think you people have might aware of that, guys. So we'll be storing the you will be storing the data in a key value pairs using map. Okay, where each unique key maps to the single value. So here the key should be unique. Value can be duplicate, but the key should be unique. Okay, key should be unique. It should not be repeated, but the value can be duplicate. For values, we can store duplicate values, guys. There is no problem for that. But for keys, it should not be duplicate. Okay, it creates the instance of map class, same like list and set. Okay, for reference, you can use this link. And let me paste this over here. See, guys. So for the reference, you can use these developer guides. So Salesforce, everything about list, set, map, or not only this collection framework, guys. Everything about Salesforce, you can find the information in Salesforce developer guides. Okay. every information will be finding over there. So just you have to do is search for that. Okay, search for that. So reading that developer guides is a best practice, guys. You people can know what happening over in the Salesforce ecosystem. You can this is the best for there will be a releases every year. So if you go through that releases, first you people just go through these Apex developer guides to gain some knowledge about Salesforce. And after that, if you guys go through that releases, Salesforce releases, you can find what new things are happening in a Salesforce ecosystem. Okay, that is a that is a very good practice to do, guys. Okay, now let's go to the DML operations. What are DML statements? Why these are used? So why we'll be using these DML statements in our Apex code? Okay, so let's see here. Data manipulation language in Apex. DML in the sense data manipulation language. So it will be used for S-object records. Okay, custom setting records, custom metadata type records. For these kind of records, we can use DML statements. Okay, DML is a language that enables insert new records, update existing records, delete records, upset records. Upset in the sense update plus insert at the same time. Okay, that we call as upset records. So here we have 5 DML statements total. So while using Apex, we'll be following only this 4. Undelete is not a DML statement for by using Apex, guys, because we cannot undelete that. We have to go to recycle bin and manually restore the data, which we need to undelete. Okay, so it is not a DML statement. So see, here there is a insert, update, delete, and upset. There are 4 DML statements. When and where we are using these kind of statements? Whenever we want to insert new records into Salesforce database, then we'll be using a insert statement. Okay, insert statement. Whenever we are using whenever we have to update the existing records, at that time, first we will query the records. We will query the records from Salesforce database. After querying, we'll be performing the update operation. So update DML statement. Okay, so same like update, if you want to delete any such records, what we'll do is, first we need to query the records which we want to delete, right? After querying, we should delete that. Understand? So these are about delete statement, and there is a upset records, guys. The records which we are inserting, we'll be writing the code for that, and also the records which we are which we are updating. We should we should query the records first from Salesforce database, and then we can update that, right? So we can write the update DML for that. When these both are operating in a single method, when these both operations are performing in a single method, we can use upset records for that. Okay, we can use upset records. I'll be explaining you these in DML statements, how to use these DML statements by taking a separate Apex class. Okay, so that is the thing about DML statements, guys. SOQL and SOSL queries, let's see tomorrow. So after these SOQL and SOSL queries, we'll go with the Apex classes, and we'll be performing a practicals over Apex classes. Okay, we'll see practically how to create Apex classes and how to do all these things, how to write list classes, how to perform list methods in Apex classes, and how to perform DML statements over there, and also how to write SOQL queries, how to retrieve records from Salesforce. We'll see all these things in Apex language. Okay, by creating an Apex class practically. Understand? So have you understand all these things, guys? What is this Apex class? Like how these are used? What are naming conventions? Is there any doubt regarding class? So talk if you are having any doubts, let me know, guys. No doubt, guys. Let's find the session. Okay. Let me having doubt or any questions regarding the session. No doubts. So you guys have understood this, right? After doing the practical scenarios, you guys will get a grip over that concepts. Okay. Now uh, you might have a little confusion about that concepts and all. If you went through the practical, if we go to practical scenarios, you guys will understand the apex and all. Okay, how to write DML statements and what is this query languages, how to retrieve the information from Salesforce database. We'll be knowing all these things once we go to the practical scenarios. Okay, guys. So, any doubts? No doubts for everyone? Okay. So, can we wind up the session for today? Okay. Okay, guys. Let's meet tomorrow. Bye. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Today's session. Thank you, Tawhid. Bye. Yes, bye, guys.